Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. So today we're going to talk about WWE and AEW's plan to go on tour. AEW has put out their plan already. I'm not going to read it. Who cares? I want to give some general ideas. Now I know that we're all wrestling fans and we're all kind of tired of the Thunderdome and we're tired of Daly's Place if you watch AEW. We're tired of seeing the same facilities over and over again. I get that. I appreciate the problem. At the same time, though, I think that they should rethink these reopenings and these desires to go on tour. I think they need to take their time with it. And it's not because of my COVID, people gonna die. That's not even what I'm thinking of. But I got 5 things listed here that I want to talk about. And two or three of them are actually tied together. But number one is the economy, the job numbers. A lot of people are unemployed. And wrestling, and this is actually number two, is wrestling is not an essential spending thing. People spend their extra money on wrestling. They have their now the high unemployment in the United States is artificial. What's taking place is that companies cannot find workers because the government is giving away money in excess of what they would work or what they would make working. Now, if you're one of those people who would say, "Oh, everybody needs to raise their wages," then you need to realize that the government has endless money. Just because they get money from taxes. So their tax money is almost always endless. And they can also just print money. So companies can't compete with a government that's willing to give money away. So there's a lot of companies that are going to be closing, a lot of people who are still going to be out of work because they're choosing to stay at home and just collect the free money from the government, even though nothing is free, because you pay for it in inflation. And this is what I mean by the cost of goods and services are going to increase, especially in wrestling. Since wrestling is a non-essential purchase and stuff like that, you're talking about increasingly small numbers of people, or may even be small numbers of people allowed, because these governors are still limiting seating. So you're still talking about small audiences, probably higher prices, and you're really squeezing a really small audience. Now, wrestling is used to that already. They've been doing that for quite a while now. They've been squeezing smaller audiences. But you're talking about now asking people to leave their house and come to this area. And I don't think that they plan to go too far. I think the furthest AEW plans to go is like Miami or Atlanta or something. But ultimately, you're asking these companies, you're asking these people, who some of whom don't have money, and those of them who do who are working. You're asking them to spend, at a time where food costs are about to skyrocket, and so that's a bit of a weird question. The third thing is skittishness from COVID. There's still a lot of people who are scared of leaving the house. I mean, that's part of the reason also why so many people are staying at home and collecting unemployment is because there are a lot of people who are still scared to leave the house. They're double masking, they're vaccinated already, but they still don't want to go anywhere because there's so many people who are not vaccinated. And all those types of things. There's still a lot of that stuff going on. And I can sit here all day and say the pandemic needs to be over. It should have been over months ago. It's not just me. There's going to be a lot of other people. There's a lot of wrestling fans who are going to be completely like, this thing ain't over. And that's just kind of how how it is, you know. But I think number 4 is we finally going to try getting into the actual wrestling reasons why we probably shouldn't be opening up right now. Is the booking. Both companies, neither company that is talking about going on tour is in any position to make demands of the audience right now. WWE is in a bad position because Raw is absolutely unwatchable. It is awful. Raw is awful. Weekly. Awful. AEW is a smidgen better. SmackDown is much better than both. NXT is better than both, but nobody watches NXT. So, you're asking people to pay inflated costs and leave their house to see a product they barely watch on TV. It's like they kind of watch it, they kind of don't. So if you were having a hot period, I would understand it. If you were like on fire, I would get it. But when TV ratings are soft and people are only kind of watching what you do, then you don't really, it shouldn't be a rush to, I know that maybe that's part of the reason why it's soft is because people are tired of looking at the same buildings and people are tired, they figure we go to a different audience, a different city, different audience, there'll be different energy, people will care and that kind of thing. Maybe you're trying to make the change to start to kick off a more creative process, but I don't think that there's going to be people beating down the doors to see you right now because of the product that people are putting out. I don't think it's very good. But also, when you talk about the fifth thing that I think they need to think about is the wrestlers. Are the wrestlers themselves ready to go travel? And some people may say, well, so what if they're not? I think that they're the most important part. If we're being honest, there's only two really important parts because the promoters will go. Vince doesn't give a shit about this thing. If he wears a mask, he probably does it just because he has to set the standard and be the role model. And I doubt Vince is probably no selling this whole pandemic. He's probably been cussing COVID the whole time. And Tony Khan, who the hell knows? I don't know. He's probably drinking White Claws and thinking he's invincible. But you have these people, the promoters don't really care. It's the wrestlers who are going to be the ones going out there and traveling, bunching up in cars or getting in cars, getting on airplanes and making the trips. They're the people that you should be thinking of, And then you also have to think, because there are some wrestlers that have gotten pretty sick. Tommy Dreamer, he was a regular on Impact, then he got sick. EC3, I think, is still in the hospital. He had COVID, then he left the hospital, wrestled once or twice, and now he's back in the hospital. Then of course you got Roman. You got guys like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens who are taking it super seriously. You have to make sure that those guys are really willing to travel. And I know that WWE wants to save money on the production cost of the Thunderdome because that's a big problem with them right now. They say, we could be setting more records of revenues if we didn't have this goddamn Thunderdome to spend all this money on. And it's like, I get that. I understand that. But ultimately, who cares? Run this thing as long as it's safe to run it. But I don't want to see, I didn't like it when Raw and SmackDown and shit was running in front of half empty buildings before the pandemic. I don't see when it could bounce back. I don't know how long you can do this Thunderdome thing or how long you can do Daily's Place. But, that you have to split the baby on this. Maybe you need to get rid of the Thunderdome and say we're going to have an actual audience, but it's going to be discounted tickets. And we're going to run it like a studio show where, if you can get to the Thunderdome area, you get to watch Raw, SmackDown, or whatever for this discounted rate. I don't know what tickets were before, but again, like I said, tickets prices are probably going to be going up. So what do we do? You can't stay there forever, but you have to take your time when it comes to leaving. And it's hard to see when people will actually be ready. But I would personally wait until the employment numbers start looking better, and all of the unemployment and all that stuff kind of stops. That way, people will have jobs, and you'll know that there's money in those areas instead of assuming that people have money and they just got money to spend on you. But that's also why I think WWE does a better job than AEW. AEW is asking you to pay $50 for a pay-per-view, and they have a smaller audience that is more dedicated that will pay that. A WWE audience just has to pay, what is it, $5 for Peacock? That's not a big deal. So I don't know. I know that other wrestling companies are talking about having crowds. MLW is going on tour. They're going to have a crowd in Philadelphia. They're already going to be in a small arena. They're a small company, already going to be in a small arena. All right. I'm willing to accept small companies doing it. But the bigger companies probably need to rethink things. I don't know, what a maximum crowd would be. What would a profit-making crowd look like? But it's not going to be full, so I don't see how they just need to take their time. Take your time, do it right, make sure everything is lined up, You know, you don't want to screw everybody over by saying, "Oh, we're going on tour," and then half the fucking roster decides to walk or stay at home because they're like, "Nah, we're not. I'm not." You know, there's not an area that's sanitary and an area that's been uh, locked down like the Thunderdome or Daly's place, and they might not want to do it. You know, that's just something to think about. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.